galaxy, the dark side. Right after lunch, play Defeat the Dark Side.
The Naboo system has been invaded by force. I need your help quickly.
Oh shit, that's George Lucas there.
I need your help.
He's pretty fast.
The Naboo system has been invaded by force.
No way, we're missing the dog. Gotta get the dog. Ah yes, I'm on my way. Why did they fire me? Ha ha ha! They got rid of me. Stop right there, Jedi. That's what Matthew Wood was just doing editing. He hadn't done the voice work yet. Oh shit.
You're a real colonel, right?
Haha.
Play Defeat the Dark Side.
Welcome. So, what are we looking at here? This is going to be 25 minutes long for the 25th anniversary. Yeah. Now, I'm going to take you through a little history of my exposure to Star Wars. I mean, you're not here for the wiki textbook. I mean, if you were here for the wiki textbook retrospective, you'd go to a better YouTuber, right? One with 10 million followers. I'm here to give you my feelings and thoughts of my exposure to Star Wars. I was born around the year that this Star Wars special came out. That was my year. What a time that was. But my earliest memories, obviously, Luke swinging Leia across the chasm. And sort of like, this is the ABCs, but the one I had triangle, know your shapes, like circles, triangles, squares, and rectangles and colors. And this is what I was raised on. And of course, we can't forget, of course, the Saturday morning cartoons like Droids, the Ewoks. This is the first time they used like full color CGI, besides the vector graphics in the old movies. Never really saw the live action Ewoks movies for TV. I do remember the pop-up book. And the Star Wars, this is the THX remastered just before the special editions. I watched all three because I had never ever sat down and watched the original trilogy. And that sort of brings us to here. I do remember Indiana Jones, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, but George Lucas had been busy behind the scenes trying to make everything happen. And I guess, like, so there was the teaser, and it was these, like, you could see that the Gungans were blending in with the plants. I liked that part. So this is like our first exposure back to Star Wars. Going back to everything and going to new planets, going to new places. Kind of reminds you of some of the CGI that they did for the original trilogy. So what I'm going to do, probably get claimed. I'm going to try my best to not get claimed. As it is, I have shown a lot of media in the 3 minutes, almost 4 minutes of fun here. We're going to go through, this is not going to be an audio track. Obviously, I'm not going to show the movie, especially there's such a heightened awareness for the 25th anniversary. I mean, the last time we were thinking about the 25th anniversary of A New Hope, that was Attack of the Clones. And then the 25th anniversary of other movies, the 25th anniversary of Empire Strikes Back was Revenge of the Sith. And then I do think that the 25th anniversary of Return of the Jedi is the Clone Wars movie, the pilot. And it's hard to go back and forth about those things, but here we are at the Phantom Menace's 25th anniversary. And what have we got to show for it? Trinity coming back, and we see a Matrix Star Wars crossover, as well as some other projects, and we're not sure where that's going. Look, this is what it is. It's like either you're going to like the new Star Wars stuff or you don't. It's one timeline. They're not doing multiple timelines. So you've seen Visionaries and Dark Horse comic books, but there's no what-if Star Wars stuff. I mean, this is all one timeline. So I think George Lucas, before he dies, he'll have seen every kind of thing in audio form, in video form, in comic book form, in novel form. He'll have seen everything. He'll that small universe syndrome. Like George Lucas has a Groundhog Day. Every new thing that comes out, it's all there. It's all laid out. So we're gonna go through scenes. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna do commentary. So it's not gonna be a virtual. It's gonna be a virtual commentary of the movie. So we'll start with the key scenes throughout this. All right. So bear with me here in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. This is the digital stuff. Lucasfilm logo, the 90s logo for the 90s. I'm not putting the music on. Now, the reason why I showed you the DVD cover is I did not see this in theaters. The first one I ever saw in theaters was Revenge of the Sith. I remember my mom told me a story that when my brother was born, he would scream his head off in the theater when they showed the original Star Wars 1977. I don't know if I was in the theaters during the original trilogy. We're just going to pretend I wasn't, because how can I remember stuff? So this is kind of more, it's not about, they're trying to make it more about government and taxes and taxations and different factions rather than, okay, rebels are going to fight Empire. I mean, he wanted to do a sequel trilogy, but then he wanted to do a prequel. He kind of went around the idea of Darth Vader being the thing to focus on. So here we got the red ship. The Trade Federation ships lining around Naboo reminds me of the design pattern of the ships at Endor at the end of the Death Star 2's explosion. And the Death Star 2 did explode. So here we are introduced. I'm doing some pausing here, and here we are introduced to our two Jedi. They are on the ship. So instead of C-3PO and R2-D2, these are the focus. It's more serious. It's not this funny, jovial shit. And I think it's just a way to set things up. There's no big battle at the beginning of the movie. It's just very somber. That's what I got out of it. A very somber tone. A very just okay. We're quietly coming in, and I think also too, George Lucas. When I watch these movies now, because I didn't get this movie until after the first movie I got on DVD was Attack of the Clones. Then I went back to pick up Phantom Menace on DVD. And I think Phantom Menace does not have a full screen counterpart. All the other movies did, and then they released the theatrical versions of 4, 5, and 6, then the Blu-rays, and then the Disney acquisition would come in, and then they would do whatever the hell. But I like that the commentary for the movies was the one that was made, and not let's pull interviews off of different things and just stick them in there. Just kind of, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. I mean, I guess that saves money and effort, but I like when you can react to, you're sitting there live and you're reacting to as it happens. So they're on their way to the Trade Federation ship. Everything that's happening is the reverse of the 3 movies of the original trilogy. So it's okay. So if the third movie, if Return of the Jedi was happening where you had a shuttle going to the Death Star 2 with Vader, this is very similar to that. It's the direction of Vader. This is Vader coming on to the Death Star 2, checking up on things. Obviously, that's the sort of, so it's asymmetry. It's a bookends with books in it, and that's what George was trying to do here. In this case, the Trade Federation ship, the main ship that's controlling the droids, is the Death Star in this movie. First appearance of young Obi. When I saw Ewan McGregor show up in the teaser trailer, I'm like, oh, okay, we're really taking this seriously as a prequel, because I had never seen prequels before. I think with Young Indiana Jones, yeah, that was a prequel, right? There weren't many prequels done of anything. Shortly after this movie came out, you had Smallville in 2001, along with Enterprise. I think there's a Bates Motel, Norman Bates Psycho prequel as well. I don't know how much was done there. Gotham being a prequel of Batman. So prequels, I think, are kind of running themselves dry. But I think, in a way, prequels are is a good way to better establish what you have had for a while. In the case of Superman, that was like what, 60 years plus, and then it's sort of a reboot. And let's take a look at this character from the ground up. And I think Jerry Siegel wanted to do that so badly, which led to the lawsuits. Here, this was the best time of George Lucas's life, working on this movie and then the next two movies, and then maybe a little bit of the Clone Wars having some direction in the cartoons. But from 1994 to 2005, those were the best years of his life because he had all the CGI at his fingertips. He can do whatever he wanted to do. He could put everything that he wanted to put in this. So, I don't have too much of an attachment to these two characters, but I know that Ewan McGregor got better. Now that's TC-14, not C-3PO. I think they were trying to establish the droids. But I had wondered if that was TC-14 at the beginning of A New Hope in the Tantive 4. And here we have the first appearance of Sidious. Now, as Ian McDiarmid once said, you have to be a fool. You have to have been living under a rock if you didn't know that Darth Sidious and Palpatine were one and the same. And at the time, I got airplane. All right, airplane disappeared. So with Palpatine, I didn't know much about the original trilogy. I didn't pay attention to characters, even though I had watched the VHS tapes. I also had the CBS Fox VHS tapes, but I wasn't into Star Wars as much as I was hoping back then. And when it came to the prequels, I was really paying attention. Now, all I paid attention to during the time of the Phantom Menace were the KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut toys. It was a cross promotional trifecta of, or triforce, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, of Happy Meal toys or kids' toys across three restaurants. So we got those, and there were inflatable malls, chairs, and all this shit. It was so bizarre, just the way everything came about. So I just didn't pay attention to the hype of it until we got to Attack of the Clones, and I'll talk about that another time, maybe for its 25th anniversary. But anyway, Palpatine, I first learned about in great detail when I went to Tower Records. I went to Tower Records and I saw a Star Wars magazine, and it would connect the dots of, okay, uh, similar types of characters across these movies, and then it would be the same actor. And I looked at it and said, okay, it's the same guy that played Palpatine in episode 6, but not episode 5 until the redos, in 2004. But Ian McDiarmid is here, and so we're not paying attention yet to all this stuff, but the clues are obviously there. I mean, it's not a great mystery, but here you have him as a hologram, of course, because of the first appearance of Palpatine. Yeah, not powerful beings, but they're just they're a means to an end, which is explained in the Plagueis book, which is now not canon. Thanks a lot, Pablo. I like this little misdirection here. And this is the first time the Jedi actually fight, if you look at the chronological order. Shut the doors. The monsters are coming through. Yeah, so there's the first appearance of Queen Amidala, Natalie Portman, which just came off with The Professional, I think. She was like 11 years old during that movie. And here I think she was, oh my gosh, probably 16, yeah. So around this time, we got stupid ass music outside. So Natalie Portman comes in at 16, right? Um, and there was when I got the DVDs, one of the big reasons I got the DVDs was to kind of get into the, how did George Lucas do all this? Now, I tell you what, because one of the reasons I say it's one of the best years of his life, those 11 years, was we get to see the thought process. We get to see the 5 minute the specials, some of the aspects of the movie. What did George Lucas do to get from point A to point Z, or Z, for those of you who are British, or Zeta, if you're Greek. How did he go through all this? What did he do? How did he go through the casting? You had Robin Gurland, I think, for the prequels, who was the casting director. You had, God, I'm trying to think, Phil Tippett, but Phil Tippett did the stop motion. Dennis Muren was special effects supervisor. I can't remember everybody. Rob Coleman for animation directing. Um, but there's different kinds of people. There were different. Scott Squires, I think, worked only on episode 1. There were different people. Scott Squires also did the audio track for this movie, but yeah, it was a much different time. So anyway, in one of the behind the scenes elements here or videos, and actually it was like during the making of, they did a I think it was the scene where Padme talks to Palpatine in the conference room, uh, just as they got to Coruscant, and she says, "I'll see you all tomorrow." She kind of gets out of character really quick. She's like, whatever. She's like, she acts really proper here, and then now she goes back to being Natalie Portman when the cameras are off. And George Lucas said, well, uh, Rick McCallum, the producer, is like, "Oh yeah, Ian McDiarmid's great, wasn't he? Wasn't Ian McDiarmid great? Yeah, of course, Ian's always great," says George. But I had no idea what was going to happen with her. So it was the challenge of getting a new actor, and even to be fair, Ewan McGregor and but I think Natalie Portman had just mostly been unknown. She did the one movie where like it was a rated R movie, but like it wasn't like cuties cringe or that. She's part of a noir, and um I remember bits and pieces of that movie, to be honest. But yeah, it was just betting on her to really be a pivotal character, because Padme, the name Padme was just a toss around character in Star Wars when the original actor who played Jabba the Hutt, some guy in a furry, like a furry, kind of a Chewbacca, like I think he had the same Chewbacca material, kind of a harness. And he tells Han Solo, "What happened? What'd you do? What happened to Padme? And why'd you kill poor Greedo?" So he just, it ends up being that the name of the Padme was kept quiet. Not even Dark Horse Comics could have access to this character until we get to the movies. And once the movies were published, then Dark Horse Comics and novelists, they could revolve around that stuff. You assume too much. We'll see. Yeah, they used a musical instrument to make that sound. And this is not much of a scene here, but I'm showing you a still here. But here we have Palpatine, the good Senator Palpatine, who's not Chancellor yet, talking to everybody. Little subtle clues that Palpatine and Sidious are one and the same here, just very subtle clues. And this is where you start to get the idea that we're not dealing with rogue scoundrels and bounty hunters shooting at each other, shooting at stormtroopers and running around and having adventures for kids and Ewoks. We're looking at dignitaries. We're looking at senators. We're looking at chancellors and queens and kings. Um, if you wanted to talk about the chronology, was it King Varuna or whatever? All the king was killed by Plagueis, right? And so a lot of the corruption of the old government of Naboo is going away, and Palpatine, I think, helps Padme Naberi. Nobody really knows her last name. It's Naberi, Nabrie, just like Sheev Palpatine. They establish these things away because it's Star Wars. You have to establish these things correctly. It's like looking at the Star Wars canon is like going through a Super Bowl game and making sure how many referees are on the field, looking at every play, looking at every angle, and when the flag is thrown on the field, you got to look at the play 100 times. That's exactly what the story is like. We're just establishing the government of things. So here we are. The Jedi have escaped, and here come the big ships, and they're going to try to kill the Jedi because the Jedi know too much information or whatever. So this is a cringe scene where I like the Lego one where they go do 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 do, right? One of my favorite lines: "Having the ability to speak does not make you intelligent." Yeah, wish my family would learn that. So this is where they first meet Jar Jar, and I think I like the part where they were trying to build a suit, and what is it George Lucas said? "A million saved is a million earned." But I think they didn't have it down. They were trying to wrestle between a suit and then CGI. This is kind of like Endor, right? This whole thing where they're shooting. Yeah, it's like just like with the speeder bike chase in Endor. All right, got some music here. So I think I know what George Lucas's approach was step and fetch it. Lincoln Theodore something something Perry. I don't know. You had to find it. So Stephen Fetchit was a comedic actor, kind of like Ernie Anderson, Amos and Andy, and then you get to like Sanford and Son, Red Fox, and all the way to Kevin Hart, Martin Lawrence, then Kevin Hart. He just wanted a funny character. It wasn't about being racist or being offensive, but it was like you needed I think his approach was Roger Rabbit. He mentioned Roger Rabbit, as soon as they leave the Gungan city. But yeah, I kind of like I just like the approach that they took to this character. Now, most of the CGI is in the head. So the whole eye popping, tongue hanging out, and stuff like that. Some close-up shots, though, some extreme close-up shots, is just the actual like suit. So I think as you go through the other two movies, all Ahmed Best had to do is just wear the like a visor and stuff like that. Just put the headdress on. This is where they go into the Gungan city. Oh yeah, he was banished for whatever reason. That's always the setup. The funny character is always banished. Here we are introduced to Gungan City. It's kind of like going to Jabba's palace a little bit. I think George Lucas was trying to recreate the Ewok village, but instead of in trees, it would be in the water. Trying to create all these species like the Wookiees and the Gungans and the Ewoks. You got Tarpals. Oh, you also have Tarful, Chewie's right-hand buddy from Kashyyyk in Revenge of the Sith. Here we are, Boss Nass. The thing is, kind of like, I think it's sort of like where the Gungans and the humans are on Naboo. The human rebels and the Mon Calamari are already like at a point where they all get along. So like the Mon Calamari and the they all get along and they're ready to help, just take out the second Death Star. Here, we're seeing the beginnings of what is it like for humans and the fish people to get along, or the weird, aquatic people, whatever. It teaches like, just love your fellow man. It's a lot of good messaging here. I didn't realize it until many, many years later. Probably, I think until Lego Star Wars when that first came out. Is how he used a Jedi mind trick to say, okay, yeah, I'll help you out. But so obviously they need Jar Jar for navigation, so off they go. We are now leaving Gungan City. I could remember, because I watched the DVD version, I could see the actors, the temporary actors who are working on the movie, act out this stuff. You see the black and white storyboarding, and you see an animatic, which is sometimes an animatic could be CGI, or sometimes it could be people acting out the scene, just to show George Lucas and other people Rob Coleman, what is this going to look like? Oh shit, they're getting caught now. But what happens? The Qui-Gon has the biggest moral line in all of this. I think George wanted to kind of create something like the Millennium Falcon, dodging things, but underwater. So, let's see. I think, when you look at Orko from Masters of the Universe, I think George Lucas wanted to create Jar Jar for something relatable to kids. Because the Jedi are very serious. There's no C-3PO or R2-D2 yet because those two haven't met. So, just trying to create something here, to create a sense of tension. So, I'm going to wrap this up. This is part 1. So I was thinking I probably have to divide this into 2 parts. But so far, I just want to kind of give you my perspective. I will do part 2. Obviously, we have a little bit more to go through. Hopefully, this does not get blocked. I don't get struck. I might get claimed, but that's all there is to it, I guess. Let me know what your memories are. Did you go see this in theaters? Have you seen it in theaters? I did see the 3D version. I did see the 3D edition of this. And I don't think Sebulba was ever put back in his chair when we got to the last part of the race. Just didn't happen. Rob Coleman forgot to put Sebulba in the damn chair, in the pod chair. What happened? What happened, Rob? Anyway, Rob moved on. He did the Lego movie and all that. And yes, I still have this on DVD. A funny thing, I couldn't even get the audio commentary to work on the Xbox 360. But anyway, that's it for now. Part 2 will come out tomorrow. See you soon. May the Force be with you all.